a squad of 4 Green Lanterns under the leadership of Katma Tui are fighting an invasion force, and they're losing. They readily retreat back into the caves, but 4 soldiers surrounded by energy beams assault them. As the energy from the Lanterns' power rings unable to pierce their shields, they try numerous methods to break off the assault, but in vain. Gallius and Arcus attempt to break out, but they're killed in action. Katma orders Kilowog to escape and warn the Guardians of the Universe of how dangerous the enemy is while she covers his escape, despite his concerns of not leaving her behind. Reluctantly, Kilowog leaves as Katma delivers one single last blast from her ring in the name of the Green Lanterns. Back on Earth, Jon Stewart and Hawkgirl are making some repairs to the space station, but Hawkgirl made the mistake of telling Lantern to adjust them clockwise, which is actually counterclockwise on Thanagar. Flash tells them to stop arguing so much, and suddenly, an unidentified object is detected on the radar approaching Earth. Hawkgirl, Flash, and Jon Jones head for the Javelin 7 while Jon goes to see what it is. Reaching the impact site, Jon Stewart finds Kilowog barely alive. Kilowog manages to tell Jon that they got Katma, but passes out before he can say any more. Jon tells the League to take care of Kilowog, then heads off by himself. Jon is able to heal Kilowog at the infirmary. Kilowog says that his unit was trying to stop the Legion of the Third Eye, a fanatical cult led by one Despero of Kalanor. Kilowog also explains that not only Katma Tui was Jon's father in the corpse, but they were also romantically involved for a time. Meanwhile, Jon has found Randstad 7 and the remains of a G-class cruiser. His ring is able to track Katma Tui to Kalanor. Arriving, Jon finds a deserted world with broken people. 2 soldiers are detaining a Kalanorian for having books, and Jon knocks them out, only for the people to run in fear of him. Jon decides to go undercover. Kilowog is fit for duty, but he needs to recharge his ring, and the only source available is Jon's power battery. On Kalanor, Jon has tracked down Katma Tui's living quarters. Despite some initial resistance from Radako, he manages to enter the house and find her power ring. 2 guards subdued him and take him to the royal palace. On Earth, Flash has taken Kilowog to Jon Stewart's apartment, hoping that the battery is there. As Kilowog searches, Flash does a little exploring, finds a full quart of Bob and Terry's ice cream and a tape of Old Yeller, both of which Kilowog eats by mistake, declaring both delicious. Suddenly, Jon Stewart's landlady finds them. Aware of Jon's day job, she assumes that they're aliens and begins attacking Flash with a broom. Flash compares her aggressive nature to that of Hawkgirl's and mentions that if they needed a replacement for Hawkgirl, he would let her know. Kilowog manages to find the battery in a pocket dimension and the 2 leave. At the palace, Jon meets Despero, leader of the Legion. Despero explains that once he was an outcast for his third eye, but while traveling in the desert, he was assaulted by robbers and was saved by the flame of Pyar. The Pyar foretold that Despero was to lead Kalanor into a paradise. Using the Pyar's powers, Despero took control of Kalanor, and Despero now intends to spread the glory of the Pyar through the universe. Jon has heard enough and attacks, but Despero's Pyar-given powers are quite formidable, fueled by his own rage and hatred. Defeated, Jon is knocked to the ground at the feet of Despero's newest priestess, Katma Tui. Despero orders her to sacrifice Jon to the Pyar, and she complies. Katma takes Jon to the Pyar's central room, revealing the Pyar to be a massive fire. Despite Jon's pleas, Katma throws Jon into the flames of Pyar. In a room underground, Radako and another Kalanorian are working on a matter transporter. Despite some technical trouble, they are able to rescue Jon Stewart from the Pyar. The older Kalanorian introduces himself as Shiflet, leader of the anti-Despero resistance. The matter transporter is not much, but it has saved a few people here and there. It was also made by their newest member, Green Lantern Katma Tui, who enters to see Jon. An overjoyed Jon runs to her and gets a right hook from Katma, who chastises him for nearly blowing her cover. Katma explains that Shiflet and his people rescued her and helped her get into the palace as a priestess. She knows that Despero is raising a massive force for conquest, but doesn't know the specific plans. Jon gives Katma her power ring, and they share a passionate kiss. At the palace, Despero commands and guides the flames of Pyar, empowering his soldiers with the power of the flames. The soldiers then will use it to spread the greatness of Despero and the Pyar across the universe. The Legion of the Third Eye goes forth as a horrified Katma watches. At the Resistance's base, Katma informs the group that Despero will be able to expand his legion by bringing in new converts. John decides to mobilize the Green Lantern Corps and prepares to head to Oa. However, just then, a Legion task force breaches the base, as Katma springs into action as she tries to fend off their attacks, and surprisingly, John finds that he can't use his ring. Grabbing a weapon, John gives covering fire as the Resistance scrambles for the secondary site. Unfortunately, tanks block them off on both sides of the road and the Resistance is cornered. In comes the Justice League and Kilowog, and altogether they are able to subdue the attacks and escape just in time. The Resistance and the League regroup at the secondary site, ancient catacombs with untranslated inscriptions. John is able to interpret some of them, and they indicate that Kalanor was once a thriving ecosystem instead of the desert world of today. Shiflet does say that there are legends of paradise, but Radico dismisses them as ancient drawings. Meanwhile, John and Katma are trying to figure out what is wrong with his ring, but Katma soon realizes that Despero did something to John, who does admit that he feels like something is missing. Katma decides that the only way to help John is to retrain him step by step. Hawkgirl is watching the two of them talk in secret as if something fishy is going on. At the palace, Despero reviews the officer in charge of capturing the Resistance. Despero orders the officer to go into the desert and await a vision from him as penance. The officer gives his praise to Despero, who informs his minister Chris Black that the officer won't be back. In the catacombs, John is still having trouble concentrating with his ring as he fails to control the elements yet again. He angrily decides to take a break and vents to Hawkgirl that Katma still treats him like a raw recruit. Hawkgirl says that as someone who knows him in the here and now, she wants him to get back to work or face her wrath with a friendly pat on the back. Now that's interesting. Meanwhile, John has reason that Despero is using the Flame of Pyar to power his legion, similar to the energy used by the Green Lanterns. The heroes must destroy the Flame of Pyar to defeat Despero, but Katma says that the Pyar is a self-sustaining nuclear plasma reaction. Kilowog then announces that he can build a carbon bomb which will negate the reaction, but Radico is acting suspiciously. The conquering of the world has begun in the name of Pyar, and at the palace, Despero is speaking to the Pyar, assuring that the conquest is going well. Chris Black enters with Radico, who announces that he wishes to join the winning side and will betray the Resistance. Despero orders a strike force to take out the Resistance. At the catacombs, John has given up on retraining and is arming himself. Katma fears that John will have to be sent back for training on Oa and that Kyle Rayner will take over his sector. Hawkgirl chastises Katma for giving up on him and gives a few words of encouragement to John. Kilowog is building the carbon bomb piece by piece while Flash and John Jones is watching the perimeter, and suddenly the Legion attacks. Soon, Katma seals off the section of the catacombs that Flash, Kilowog, and John are in. The Resistance attack, but the Strike Force has Pyar-empowered soldiers with them. During the battle, John Stewart, Katma, and Hawkgirl are captured by the soldiers, and they are taken to the tunnels in the palace. Despero decides to work his will on the two lanterns and Hawkgirl. Despero overwhelms Katma and prepares to do the same to Hawkgirl, considering making her part of his personal retinue. With an act of sheer willpower, John summons his power ring to him, frees himself, and attacks Despero. John and Despero are evenly matched, but John manages to score a symbolic victory by punching Despero's third eye, leaving the imprint of the power ring on it. Elsewhere, Flash, Kilowog, and Jayon make it to the Pyar chamber with the carbon bomb. Getting past the guards, Kilowog arms the device and seals the doors. Before he can throw it in, Jayon tells them to stop. The Pyar is a sentient being, in pain, and hopes to make contact. Before he can explain further, Jayon jumps into the Pyar. As soldiers, priests, and priestess make their way into the chamber, Jayon rises from the Pyar, bathed in flame, now sporting a third eye. The Pyar says that it is the natural life force of Kalanor, which was suppressed eons ago. Despero was to release the Pyar and let it restore Kalanor's ecosystem, but used it for his own petty ends. The Pyar offers paradise, but the Kalanorians must reject Despero. The Kalanorians bow down to the Pyar as the soldiers cast away their weapons. Jayon falls to the floor as the Pyar turns into a great tree. In the tunnels, Despero is consumed by a tree, while the Legion soldiers empowered by the Pyar turn into trees. On Kalanor, green foliage spreads across the desert. Shiflet declares it a miracle, but Jayon says that it's just the natural state of Kalanor. Katma and Kilowog will remain behind to help the Kalanorians rebuild and readjust, while the League heads back to Earth. John transports his fellow Leaguers home. His power will be restored. John tells Hawkgirl that some things can't be taught. They can only be learned through experience. In a deserted foreign country, an American Special Black Ops team is tracking an elusive criminal, following his trail into what they believe is his hideout. They find themselves in a cavernous ancient ruin. They notice the word cave inscribed on the wall, which one of them realizes is Latin for beware. They notice a large number of human skulls lying on the cave floor, and at the end of the ruin is a large purple gemstone sitting on a pedestal. One of the soldiers reaches for it greedily, but then a bizarre wild man jumps down, who is actually an old man who calls himself Morphir, dressed in ancient armor and wielding a sword. Despite his old age, he is amazingly swift and agile. He yells at them not to touch the gem, but they manage to subdue him somehow at the end. The first soldier, Burns, picks up the gem and then sees something inside his eye. A moment later, he begins humming an eerie tune. Then he turns on the other soldiers and opens fire, causing the ruin to cave in. Burns walks out alone, carrying the gem and humming the same eerie tune in the pupil of his eye. In Central City, Flash is hunting down Mirror Master and runs into an ambush by the Mirror Master and his allies. Suddenly, a skateboard kid appears and throws him a light-speed snack bar, and Flash is up and running again. Well, Flash gets into trouble with people doing these product endorsements. Talk show host Glorious Gordon Godfrey, who claims he and the entire Justice League are exploiting their roles as heroes for their own gain. Green Lantern questions Flash on the accusations, and Flash takes him to see his all-new Flashmobile, which, again, is quite flashy. Since the talk show continues to speak bad about the Justice League, Flash makes a surprise appearance on Godfrey's show, but ends up humiliating himself and the League even further. In the desert caves, Morphir emerges from the ruin and seemingly disappointed that the soldiers didn't listen to his advice. He gets a brilliant idea. Meanwhile, Burns is traveling in a Humvee and threatens the driver by asking him various questions on their military weapons. The talk show host continues to berate the Justice League, focusing on the Wonder Woman this time, and she doesn't like any of it. Lantern somehow manages to calm her down. On the base, the commanding officer, General McCormick, is preparing to exhibit a new device, the AFD, designed to protect against nuclear attack by stopping the fusion inside a ballistic missile's atom bomb. In the middle of the test, Burns breaks through the barrier around the exposed nuclear missiles. Commander orders the nukes to be readily withdrawn, and Burns is pursued and captured by the base authorities. Doing his latest endorsement, Flash takes exception to the corny script and the snooty director. After failed discussions with his agent, he rushes out of the studio in a huff, managing to collapse the set. To avoid paying damages, Flash's venal agent, Artie, sells the footage of the snafu to Godfrey's talk show, providing further ammunition for Godfrey's accusations. A short time later, when Burns is being interrogated, he claims not to remember anything, including the fact that his squad was taken out by friendly fire. As General McCormick watches the interrogation, he is now shown holding the gem. He walks down the hall, whistling the same eerie tune. Later, the commander sees data on the AFD and he begins reviewing it, interested. Then he sees Godfrey's latest talk show while passing through the common room of the officers, during which Godfrey rants that, if they wanted to, the Just Us League could destroy the world. The general asks a nearby colonel how to locate the League, and the colonel jokes he should put on a gaudy costume and threaten to hurt a lot of people. Flash confronts Artie, wanting to know how Godfrey got hold of the embarrassing footage from the commercial shoot. Artie feigns ignorance. Their discussion is interrupted by an explosion from a nearby power plant. Flash joins Lantern and Wonder Woman in going to investigate. General McCormick stands atop a tower, ranting that mankind's time will be forever eclipsed. True enough, he has donned a gaudy costume and face makeup that looks slightly absurd, but he is armed with genuine weapons stolen from the base, and the explosion reveals that he has set fire to the flammable gas in the sewers. Lantern and Flash take care of the fire, while Wonder Woman flies into the power plant to confront the villain. She easily disarms him, and he tells her to stay back, saying she can't have his precious black diamond, which has the power to destroy the world. Undaunted, she seizes the diamond from his grip. Lantern and Flash arrive and find Wonder Woman about to drop McCormick from a high ledge. Surprised, they stop her and ask her if she's alright. She says she's fine and walks out, humming an eerie tune. Commander McCormick comes around and is interrogated at the local police station. He claims not to remember what he did or why he is dressed in the bizarre outfit. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman is watching the interrogation from behind the mirror. Soon after, Diana, Flash, and Lantern emerge onto the street, and out of the blue, Morpheus appears and attacks them. Wonder Woman beats them off with ease, but Morpheus flashes her with light from a large ruby, and she falls unconscious. Morpheus raises his sword for the kill, but Lantern's ring knocks him unconscious. While Lantern takes Diana to the Watchtower for medical treatment, Flash follows Morpheus, who is taken to the local asylum in a straitjacket. The doctors dismiss him as a raving lunatic, but as Flash decides to listen, Flash asks Morpheus to explain himself, and the story he unfolds is quite baffling. Thousands of years ago, prehistoric men fought a vicious war with the Ophidians, humanoid snake creatures. As the war turned in man's favor, the Ophidians made a last-ditch attempt for victory. During a solar eclipse, they conducted a magic ritual that created the Heart of Darkness, imbuing it with the souls of the last of their warriors. Anyone who touched the gem would be possessed by their vengeful spirits, whose only goal was to wipe out the human race. Morpheus is the last surviving member of a clan of ancient warriors that erected the temple around the heart and swore to guard it forever. Flash asks how the possessing spirits can be driven away. Morpheus says there's two ways to do it. First, with the light from his ruby, or second, by decapitating the possessed person. Highly unlikely since it's the Wonder Woman. Flash returns to the Watchtower and fills in Jayon, who comments that Diana has been acting strangely. After a brief talk with Diana, who seems to be normal, Flash returns to the others, who say that they have just discovered a breach in their security. They review the security tapes and see Jayon removing the AFD from a javelin. Jayon, confused, claims not to remember. Flash dashes off and returns with Morpheus' gem, which he has brought with him. He flashes Jayon, then Diana, without effect. He flashes Superman, but then the gem is suddenly destroyed by a blast from the Green Lantern, who is shown holding the diamond. The possessed Lantern attacks with the ring's powers, but the League manages to overpower him and knock him unconscious, and the diamond falls from his hand. Hawkgirl recklessly erases her mace and smashes it to shards. This turns out to be a bad move, as the fragments scatter throughout the area and stick to every other League member except Flash, the only one fast enough to evade them. Now Flash is the only one of them not possessed. He runs with the others in pursuit. While Flash hides, he watches as the others activate the AFD, and Lantern sends it hurtling towards the sun in order to destroy the sun and human existence. Flash runs to a communications terminal and tries to phone Batman, but Superman catches up with him and destroys the phone, then severely injures Flash with his heat vision. Barely able to trick Superman, Flash runs to the Javelin Bay, but finds the controls smashed and the other League members closing in on him. When the AFD hits the sun, the fusion on the surface of the star begins to stop, and a dark stain begins to spread on its surface. As the sun eclipses, people on Earth scream in panic, and Morpheus laments that he has failed. Flash escapes and limps into an engineering bay, where the others converge on him, all humming the Ophidian chant. Flash waits until they are close enough, then throws a switch and opens the cover of a solar generator nearby, blinding the others with light that drives the spirits out and the shards of the diamond off their skin. The other League members recover from the possession, but the threat to life on all Earth is still existent. After a quick analysis, John concludes that the only way to reverse the damage to the sun is to create a wormhole near the stain that will drain away the anti-fusion matter. The Javelin is equipped with a wormhole generator, but it requires a near light-speed velocity to trigger it, and even Superman can't fly that fast. Lantern comes up with a radical plan. He will take Flash into space, near the sun, and use his ring to provide Flash with a running path to pick up speed, and their combined speeds may trigger the generator at the precise point necessary to open the wormhole. Flash makes one of his fastest runs to date and hurls the generator at the stain. To everyone's surprise, it works. The wormhole opens and the stain leaches away, restoring the sun to life. On Earth, people cheer, and Morpheus smiles. Flash awakens in the Watchtower sickbay, weak and dizzy, but triumphant. Later on, the Justice League is honored at a public ceremony for saving the world. Godfrey sponsors drop him, and his show is moved to an early morning time slot on a public access channel with hardly any viewers. Artie calls Flash to tell him his sponsors are eager to sign him on again. A little embarrassed, Flash declines to do any more endorsements, but as a payback measure recommends more fear as a replacement with somewhat predictable results. At the end, it was Flash who saved the day by acting out wisely, and the League should be grateful for his actions, which saved their dignity. We should always remember to be humble and not jump to conclusions about anyone or anything in life, as we should always stick to what is good and what is right in the means for a better world. Thank you for watching Second Look. Like, comment, share, and subscribe for more awesome videos. Have a nice day.